just before we start, just want to thank my sponsors again, the sponsors for the Freelance Festival, Media Super. They'll be giving a talk tomorrow. They're delivering a keynote, and it's actually very timely that you're doing this session, because what comes out of this session will probably be relevant to what they're talking about with Media Super tomorrow as well. So it's a really good combination. So I'll start with the introductions now, and we'll get it underway. So this is Holly, and Holly, I'm just going to read a little bit about you and some of the things that you've been doing before we begin. So Holly's the Director of Oceans Accounting and Advisory, and she's a certified public practitioner of CPA Australia, and she's a registered BAS agent, tax agent in training, Xero partner, did I pronounce that right? Xero partner, yeah. And QuickBooks advisor. So you've got quite a few strings to your bow there, but you're not a typical accountant. So you also hold a diploma of counselling. You're a Lifeline telephone crisis supporter, a volunteer primary school ethics teacher, and a quirky creative, previously with an associated photography and photographic art business. So you must be juggling a lot at the moment. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, we're always juggling a lot. Calendar's always full, but it's a pleasure.
And Oliver was at our last festival as well and ran a couple of sessions there on Rounded Software, and it's fantastic to have Oliver back again. So he joined Rounded as a coup in early 2016 when the app was in its initial phase. So he's seen it grow over the last few years, and he heads up Rounded's customer service program and interacts with Rounded users daily. And at the end of this session too, Oliver has kindly offered a 30-day trial of the software with no obligation. You don't have to put in your credit card. And also Holly has offered some free consultation as well, and I'll put that in the chat a bit later. So don't forget, ask questions as you go along. Myself, Oliver, Holly will be checking the chat. So yeah, please feel free to ask them anything. Over to you guys.
Awesome. Well, Holly, do you want to give should we get rid of the disclaimer first, just so that we can get that out of the way?
Yeah, okay. So I think with any sort of presentation like this, anything we talk about is general in nature. It's not specific to you, although it might sound like it at times, I'm sure. So do speak to your accountant. This is not tax advice. It's not financial advice. So just keep that in mind. Very broad, general discussion today.
But I think, having said that, we do want to try and make this as specific and useful as we can. So we really want to try and do our best to interact with you guys, and perhaps talk to some of the issues and the challenges that you guys as freelancers face when it comes to running your business finances. So we'd love to hear from you on the chat. If you could share with us some of the things, some of the challenges that you have when it comes to managing your freelance business finances. So Holly, maybe to kick us off, what are sort of some of the typical things that you hear when you're talking to your freelance client base?
Gosh, some of the typical things we hear are not putting enough, the cash flow management, not setting aside enough prepaid income tax and getting to tax time and having an unexpected tax bill. Other frustrations such as sort of perhaps when it comes to record keeping and bookkeeping, if you are using an accounting software or platform, connecting a personal bank feed into a business, the business platform, and then potentially spending hours allocating personal expenditure instead of, the 5 business transactions or 10 business transactions that may have been there. Some other ones are sort of, we've seen GST registered clients accidentally mark their transactions. So they'll have a business transaction for $110. They'll mark the GST as GST free or BAS excluded, depending on what software you may or may not be using. And they accidentally reduce their GST claim, which essentially reduces the amount of money you get back from the ATO. We have so many. Do I keep going?
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think what I find and what I see when I talk to our freelance customers is it's not just the technical aspect of it; it's the emotional aspect as well, and the impact that worrying and stress about managing finances brings. and that kind of can compound sort of really quickly. And I guess, you know, what do you see again typically is sort of the outcome of you know, not managing finances effectively?
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh gosh, particularly in the last few months, having to manage JobKeeper coming into tax season, we're seeing clients who are they're overwhelmed, emotionally overwhelmed. They're frustrated, you know, they may not have done all their bookkeeping for the year to date and they're trying to navigate reporting for JobKeeper. They're confused, you know, trying to navigate legislation, bookkeeping, while still managing their own business. You know, obviously running your own business, you're wearing many hats. So trying to navigate all this legislation and bookkeeping can be, you know, super overwhelming. Yeah.
Cool. And so guys, I'm just looking at the chat. We'd love to hear from you. So please, you know, share with us some of the challenges that you have when managing your finances. What we want to do today is to share with you, you know, some tips and some tricks that will allow you to develop, you know, really good habits, mainly to save you time, to make sure that your business is being run as efficiently as possible, and you know, to remove the stress that we've been talking about that's often associated with running your own freelance business. Because, you know, often we find that freelancers are really excellent at what they do, but often don't have much in the way of sort of business or formal finance training. Is that sort of similar to what you see with your customers, Holly?
Yeah, absolutely. We see the most brilliant, you know, creatives, technicians, whatever they do in their business, they're brilliant at it. But when it comes to sort of managing the technical aspect, they, you know, things can fall down a little bit.
Okay, so we've got Corinne has been kind enough to put something. She wants to talk about automation, automating invoicing and probably getting paid as much as possible. That's certainly something that we can discuss. I think if you look at you know, one of the things we talk to our customers about, and maybe yourself, where would you start if you're somebody that's sort of at that point where you're completely overwhelmed? You know, sometimes it's sort of, you know, hard to even know where to begin. So if you were sort of, you know, beginning to work with a new customer who had come to you with really sort of, you know, in all sorts of trouble, what would be the first step?
That's a good question. I think the first step is really getting a hold or, you know, a clear overview of the bookkeeping or the record keeping, because that feeds into absolutely everything else, every other aspect of the business. So the better the bookkeeping, the better, you know, the processes are around that, the better everything else is going to flow, and your life will be so much easier at quarterly BAS, income tax time. So I think the sort of fundamental would be to have that separate business bank account from your personal bank account. That's already going to save you, oh God, hours, you know, potentially days. So I think that's the first step.
Okay, so keeping business transactions completely separate to personal transactions. Again, it's in the room. I don't know if anybody wants to share who's got a dedicated business banking account, who's still trying to save a few bucks a month by using their personal banking account, and it's taking time. It'd be interesting to know what the feeling in the room is. So that's step one is a business bank account. I find when we talk to rounded customers that the thing that hits them straight away, especially if they move from a manual process to using software like Rounded, is instantly the time that they're spending becomes more focused, and that they're more direct and specific about the things that they're doing. So it's kind of almost that it brings an order and a discipline to what they're doing. Is that what you find as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like you've got all your ducks in a jumble. Once you kind of get them nicely lined up, then everything flows from there. Definitely.
Yeah. So so unfortunately, I guess it depends. If you're somebody who's not great with discipline, it does sort of come down in the first instance to just having the discipline to do things regularly.
Yeah, definitely. Regularly, ideally a couple, you know, once a week, once a fortnight, once a quarter. But if you can set aside that time, don't book over it, and stick with it, your life will be so much easier from an accounting perspective. 100%.
And I think what we find is that the longer you leave it, the longer it takes, right? So,
Oh gosh,
you know,
yeah.
if you do something that takes you 10 minutes and you do it, you know, pretty quickly after you need to, it might take you an hour or something else a month down the track, which I think is key.
Yeah, that's definitely a pain point that we see every year at tax time. We get clients coming to us saying, I haven't done any bookkeeping all year, I meant to, and now they're spending a week or, you know, at various times collating a whole year worth of transactions instead of, they could have done it sort of 20 minutes a week, as an example.
Do you talk to your customers about time cost, Holly? Because that's something that we talk to our users a lot about, and often, again, with the people that we speak to, quite often they don't understand the impact of time cost when spending, you know, overt amounts of time on business admin.
Yeah, we do have that conversation occasionally, not too often, but definitely I think time management and the cost associated to our time and how we allocate that is so valuable. Like the time is our most valuable asset. So definitely understanding a cost and how that flows into your business and your life in general is incredibly valuable. Yeah.
So we've got some comments. I think Adeline has made a great comment. She said that Bank West business accounts are free. So if any of you are looking for a good option for a business banking account, then Bank West might be the go. Ian says he combines personal and business, but he's got rules set up in Xero to determine the two. So it sounds like Ian's obviously, you know, again, he spent a lot of time to set things up properly and effectively so that they work.
So Kathy Anderson, I enjoy the bookkeeping side of my business and I don't automate invoices. I'd like to make them personalized. The thing I fall down with is the reporting and understanding how my business income varies, particularly as some income for us, we're in a partnership, is earned as PYG and not via invoice. Oh, that's interesting. Any tips for reports or data analysis?
Well, you were going to talk a little bit about cash flow and sort of understanding how cash flow affects the business, Holly. Maybe that's something that Kathy might benefit from. Yeah,
definitely. So cash flow, I think cash flow is king, whether you're a sole trader or you're a corporation, multi-million-dollar corporation. So a really basic sort of rule, and it fluctuates the size of your business, but for each invoice that comes in, you'll ideally set aside a percentage of that into a separate business bank account or a separate savings account for PYG, your prepaid income tax, perhaps superannuation, perhaps reserves for a rainy day. You know, if you know something happens, you need to buy equipment, a laptop dies, you need to replace your laptop or a camera or something like that. Having that little pool of cash really sets you up, as opposed to if you get to income tax time, you've spent all of your income, 100% of it, instead of, say, setting aside 25%, you're going to have a potential tax bill, and that can be quite stressful, overwhelming, and then navigating payment plans and debt thereafter. So if you can be on the front foot with cash flow, it really saves a huge amount of stress and cost in managing debt.
Awesome. And I think perhaps just to Kathy's point, and also to Jane's, because I think Jane's made a point there that I think that they almost sort of fit into the same bucket. That I think, Kathy, that it's great that you like to personalize, you know, that side of invoicing. It's, you know, it is doing that. It is a way that you can build great relationships with your clients, of course, and it's something that I completely understand that you would want to manage closely. But there are things that can be automated that wouldn't impact on that, you know, by way of using accounting software like Rounded. So things like automating follow-up emails if an invoice goes overdue, because often if you forget to do that, again, it spends more time being overdue than it might need to if there was a little reminder that gets sent. The other thing is things like being able to offer credit card payment, and again, not for everybody, not for every client, but you know, some clients you know, react really well to being able to pay an invoice online via credit card, and that just you're able to give your clients another option around being able to pay you. And again, that feeds back into cash flow. You know, if you can get paid in 7 days rather than 30, that's clearly going to help your business and smooth out the ups and downs. And Jane talks about, you know, she tried an accounting system years ago, but it was a pain because it wasn't aimed at her. Well, fortunately, you know, in this days of modern software, you know, there are software that is now specifically aimed at freelancers, like Rounded, funnily enough. So I would suggest to you, Jane, that now might be a great time to give it another go, because you might find that, you know, software's changed a lot since the last time that you had a go. Holly, you're pretty agnostic when it comes to software. You've got clients on Xero, QuickBooks, all of that sort of thing. You know, how do you help your customers understand which software is better for them? Because it's obviously going to be horses for courses, right? Different for everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's different for every business. So it really depends on the structure. Are you employing people? So many number of different requirements. So for example, you know, if a sole trader comes to me, or you know, a business that, even a company or whatever structure it is, but they're not employing people and they're looking for something that's intuitive, you know, we recommend them to Rounded. If you're sort of a larger business, you know, you have requirements for, you know, I think payroll's a big consideration. Then we start to look at the platforms that sort of tailor to that, and they can be sort of Xero, QuickBooks. But in terms of, you know, for this particular presentation, you know, the Launceston Freelance Festival, freelancers can often be either, you know, companies or sole traders. Rounded is brilliant. It's intuitive, you know, very, what would you say? Aesthetically pleasing dashboard, you know, functional reporting, easy to use in terms of allocating your expenses, that kind of thing. So I think it really depends on the individual business, what you're trying to achieve, when we come to consider what we might recommend.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things we also wanted to discuss today, which is a huge thing, we're being asked about it a lot, and I know that you are, is we did just want to cover off a couple of questions around job seeker and job keeper, and how not really the application process, but when it comes to looking at, you know, understanding, okay, well, I've been given this money by the government. How do I manage it? How do I report on it? You know, what's my obligation do I have to pay tax on it? You know, do I record it as income? So maybe, you know, this was something that came up a lot when we were discussing it. Maybe Holly, you can give us some just a bit of an overview of job keeper and job seeker, and you know, how that's best to be managed. Yeah,
sure. Okay, so job seeker is a little bit different to job keeper. Job keeper comes from Centrelink, or it's the New Start allowance, but renamed job seeker. So it is assessable income. Typically, we'd sort of look to keep that in your personal bank account, as it's a different kind of income support to job keeper. So, and ideally, when you receive job seeker, there should be a level of PAYG withholding managed for you by Centrelink. With job keeper, this has really kept us on our toes the last few months. This is a form of income support for business. It's targeted more towards business. So this income is assessable income. It's paid fortnightly. It's 1,500 gross per fortnight, or it's paid in fortnights. It's paid monthly though. It is assessable income. It's GST free income, and it must be paid out to the business participant or the nominated employee. So if you're a freelancer or you're self-employed, that's ideally, we're getting this question a lot. How do I allocate this in my accounting system or in my record keeping if I'm using Excel? We ideally will have another income account called job keeper, or it could go into other income, just so it's really nicely, you know, separately highlighted for your accountant when they go to prepare your income tax return. I think, yeah, that would be the best way to start. So knowing it's accessible, GST free, and making it very clear for your accountant that they can see it in your reporting.
Yep. Okay, so just a few simple tips there. And I think the other thing that we wanted to touch on as well was finding the right accountant.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
again, it's horses for courses, a bit like software, isn't it? You know, the
Yeah.
accountants are all different shapes and sizes with different specialities, and finding
Yeah.
the right one can be pretty interesting sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. We hear some interesting stories. I think it's important to note that while someone might be a tax agent or a CPA or an accountant, people specialize in different things. So when you're looking for an accountant, a good way to sort of find one that works for you is reach out to your friends or, you know, colleagues or people that you might work with in a similar industry. Have they had a good experience with an accountant? Do they specialize in your business structure? So for example, if you go to a certain accounting practice, they might only want to work with big multinational corporations. And so a creative freelancer might not be suited for that particular firm. So you want to make sure that the accountant's willing to work with you. Have they, you know, what do they know about your business, your industry? You know, don't be scared to ask around, because it's kind of like you're looking for a restaurant. There's a difference between McDonald's and, you know, the 5-star restaurant in the city. They all cater to a different market. So don't be scared to have a conversation. A lot of accountants offer a free initial consult. So speak to them, ask for referrals from your friends, from people in a similar line of business. And I think important to note also, a lot of accountants are now servicing clients remotely. So you don't need to go into a big traditional office in the city like we used to and hand over a bunch of paper. You know, for example, Oceans services clients around Australia and even abroad. So a lot of accountants are doing that these days to sort of make things a bit easier.
Yeah, I think that's right. So shop around. I think it's also, again, from our point of view, it's also interesting to understand where your accountant's recommendations come from when it comes to software. Some accountants are very agnostic, like Holly, and will happy to work with whatever software works best for the clients. Others, you might find, will run their entire businesses using the practice management software that's provided by a certain provider. Xero, MyOb, QuickBooks all have back-end software that accountants use. And of course, it makes sense for that accountant to want to have all of their clients on the one platform that they know how to use, and that you know, works for them, because there's an economy of scale in terms of having all of their clients on the same one. So, but again, just being wary for you guys that just because it works for your accountant doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So again, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you either, but it's always good to understand, if you talk to an accountant, why are you recommending this software? Is it software that you use? Do you have any other clients that aren't on this software? So it's just good to understand the context around that, I think. So Adeline, again, she's come with a great question. I don't know if you've seen that, Holly, around super, which is always a lovely question that we get asked about all the time.
Yeah, okay, let me just read the question. Many don't know. Yeah, gosh, this is something we speak to our clients about all the time, and no two situations are ever the same. Basically, it depends on how you're servicing your client. So if, for example, like, this can often happen in agency work, as you know, if you're working for a creative agency, as an example, basic example, if you're billing your client hourly, you're doing regular work, you have to be on site. You know, they maintain a sort of level of control over the way you work and how you output your work, and, you know, how you interact with the clients, etc. For all intents and purposes, the ATO want to look and see, is that really more of an employment arrangement and they should be paying you super? Often these, you know, not all agencies, and often, you know, these employers who are paying the freelancers will look to hire a contractor to get around the compliance obligation of superannuation. So often people do this accidentally. They don't realize they have to pay superannuation. And we see this more often than not, it's an accident and they haven't been given the right advice. And when we get our freelancers to go to that particular employing entity and say, you need to pay a super, they're more than obliging. There are a small number of businesses that like to sort of take, contractors for granted. So they'll look to avoid the compliance cost by defining a freelancer as a contractor. So it's really, I think in that situation, every agreement is different, every arrangement is different. So have a chat to your accountant, even have a chat to the entity and just understand, have you had to sign a tax file number declaration? Will they provide you with a payment summary? There are lots of little indications. There is also an ATO, I think it's a employee contractor decision tool, and it helps to determine, there might even be another tool that determines whether superannuation is due. So if you have a Google employer contractor decision tool with the ATO and just have a look for a superannuation decision tool, I'm sure there's 2 of them, and they can really help you. And otherwise talk to your accountant as well.
Cool. Great advice. So I think just conscious of the fact that we're coming up to around about 4 minutes left. Guys, I'm going to share a link with you in a second to a tip sheet that Holly and I have put together. It's also got Holly's email address. So if any of you are interested in a consultation with Holly to understand how she can help you more specifically, then you can get in touch with her. There's also a link to a free 30-day obligation-free trial for Rounded. That's double what you would get if you signed up on our website, so that you can check Rounded out as well. Corinne, I know that you asked if I was going to do a demo. Unfortunately, I don't think we've got time, but if any of you are interested in a demo or a one-on-one chat with me about how Rounded can help you, then I'll be happy to do that. So, Holly, we've got our sort of three tips to help transform the way you manage your business finances. And I think the first one is, this is just really covering off a lot of the things that we've discussed. But tip 1 is regular record keeping, right? So making sure that you're being disciplined and doing things regularly.
Yeah, definitely. Regular record keeping. And so shall I launch into tip 2?
Yeah. Just go, you can take it away. Bring us home.
Yeah. So yeah, number 1, regular record keeping. It's going to change your life. And if you can jump onto an accounting system, honestly, it will save you so much time and make life a lot easier, and help you more efficiently run your business. Number 2, talk to an accountant. I hope I'm referring to the right list. Anyway, talk to an accountant. If you've already got one that's doing a great job, that's fantastic. Stick with them. Find time to sit down and talk with them. Let them know what you're trying to achieve. Don't be scared to look around as well, and have a chat to your colleagues or people that you work with, or freelance Facebook groups to get an idea of recommendations. And I think the last one, tip 3, look for an accounting platform that really works for you. So something that's intuitive, good to look at, really functional in terms of reporting, something that's easy to understand, because it can honestly save you so much time. It can help you more efficiently manage your debtors, bring in cash flow, increase profitability in your business. All of that helps to boost your business into the sort of, make it a bit more foolproof, and boost it into the future with, I don't know what the word is, strength.
I think that's good. I think the main thing that we wanted to get across is that it doesn't have to be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be painful. The software is out there to help you. The accountants are out there to be able to advise you. And if you're able just to input a little bit of discipline and a little bit of regular activity into your business finances, it can all be managed pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I've shared the link, guys. I don't know if anybody's clicked on the link and been able to access the document. Please let me know if you can or you can't. I can certainly share the PDF with Sue as well. Yeah, thanks, Chelsea. I think that worked. So feel free to download a copy. As I said, Holly's email address is on the bottom. The link for the 30-day free trial is on the bottom too. So yeah, we look forward to chatting to you all again. I think that's us done, Sue.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much for all of that. That's, I know I struggle particularly when it comes to GST time, and I'm sure my accountant does a wonderful job, but I find that he doesn't actually explain to me how how much I actually have to pay. So I get very confused about that. And the tax department have made a change. I think in the past, when you did your returns, there was something he called an Oz key or something. And then when I tried to find it, it had changed. And I can't make any sense of it. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who doesn't know. So I think giving people the opportunity to have a booking with you, Holly, is fantastic to explain the process. And Oliver, I know that there were people from the last festival who used your software for the 30-day trial and then became regular clients. So obviously it worked well and they were very happy with it.
Yeah, we've still got a couple that we met a couple of years ago. So hopefully that bodes well, that the software is adding a bit of value for sure.
That's great. And as running your own business, that's never easy. So especially during a time like this. So well done for, keeping your head above water and keeping on going.
Thanks. Well, we've got great customers who've been, very supportive and always happy to recommend us, which is, half the battle. So, thanks to all this, we're here by the grace of our customers, really. So that's good. Well,
you enjoy your time down at the beach, and I hope that you managed to get a bit of surf. Did you say you were surfing or wanting to surf?
Yeah, it's really, I'm just sort of trying to stop my son from drowning is mostly what I do. So hopefully we can get in the water at some point, even though it is a bit cold.
Yeah, that's good parenting skills, stopping your son from drowning.
Yeah.
And thank you. Thank you, Holly, as well, for spending your time and explaining some of the accounting process to make it a little easier for us, less painful, hopefully, going forward.
Yeah, no worries. Pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you very much. It's always great to people to give their time to this festival. So thank you very much. And I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully we'll see you again at the festival next time.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Good luck with the rest of the festival.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.